All right, cool. So, welcome to another episode of Sweat Equity. Today, we're going straight into part three of developing your own content strategy. Some of it is developing like your content, your founder content playbook. Um, I don't think we got to really do any intros here. Just jumping straight into it. You want to start with your section, then I could end with my rant.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for a rant, but the thing I want to talk about today is many people push back and they say, I don't want to just make direct response content. I don't want to make content that is always selling my product to an audience. And in reality, what short form media has done is allowed you to create skits, to use trends, to do these kind of like elevated memes, basically, and use that to actually sell your product and integrate it natively in your content strategy. So there's this company called Derschutze.
Send it to me.
Yeah, they are a fashion brand out of Hamburg, Germany, and they're primarily their store is in London. They've got a store in New York, and they don't run ads. Like, they're not a performance marketing company. They are strictly a brand play, and that's because they're trying to be huge in the streetwear market. So their playbook is something that any brand can follow if you're looking to create trending audio content, skit content, or meme content instead of running performance marketing and spending all your dollars on ads and stuff like that. So
Cool.
how do they do it? Well, the biggest thing that I think Derschutze does well is they connect with their audience. And as generic as that sounds, let me go a layer deeper on how they connect with their audience. They distinctly know that a lot of the people that follow them are into fashion. No surprise, they're a high-end streetwear brand. And so all of the skits that they've created poke fun at that audience. They poke fun at their target audience because they are their target audience. A lot of the stuff that they create in their videos is tied to geography. They roast people who spend too much time in Soho because the store is in Soho. Or they'll say quotes like, fashion boys are so useless, or fashion girls are so pretentious, they'll do anything for 100K likes. And these things are natively integrated in their content, in their skits, to make it feel more believable, to make it entertaining for their target audience. Again, this is a brand. This isn't a creator, but they're taking a creator approach and connecting with this audience of one. Another great dig was, are fashion boys good at anything but wearing baggy jeans and pandering around Soho? I mean, they've got hilarious content, and a lot of these skits are also involved with series, so they're repeating them. So one of the series is Fashion Can Be Deceiving. There's part 1, 2, and 3.
Should I be looking on IG or TikTok?
On IG.
Okay.
And so they use kind of something you've referenced in previous episodes. They use a Derschutze clothing is one of the handles. Derschutze London is the other one. And out of all of these things, what's really interesting is how much they're able to just exclusively do brand marketing. Everything is strictly, there's no direct response involved in any of it. There's no get this product now. There's no it's back in stock. There's no sale is live.
Yeah.
It's all seamless ways to integrate the product. So, for example, they blend art and concepts with their hooks. So they had a dice collection.
This one's crazy.
They had a dice collection. And so they make this sick edit where the guy is just shaking some dice and throws it into the camera. It does a little 360 animation and then goes right into the collection. And so what you're seeing is the power of a super compelling visual hook, maybe with some text to frame the rest of the video, going into a product demo. And the product demo from there does the talking. It's a beautiful product. It's a fashion brand, but a lot of the time you can use this trending format to work with anything, whether you have a energy shot brand, whether you have
anything. You
baby product, like as long as you're using sort of that overall high level concept, tying it into something visually that is also very stimulating, captivating, it's a very repeatable formula. So what do they do when, like, first principles, they're looking at how do we write our headlines to make these videos pop? They're using 3 different formats. Number 1 is POVs. What's an example? POV, fashion MFs are getting too confident. That sets the funny tone. That sets the tone that they're going to, we could talk about the bottle later. That sets the expectation for what the video is about to be, right? Fashion MFs, like I'm not a fashion MF. I wouldn't say I've graduated to that point yet, but a lot of people might consider themselves like a hype beast, and you watch that video and all of a sudden it's a skit about you from a brand that you might actually enjoy. So from there, there's also quotes. Bro, all jorts just have the same boring light wash. It's a quote that's about to be debunked. It's a format that people on social media expect. They understand. They've seen it before, but they're twisting it to fit their brand. So what happens at the end of the quote of bro, all jorts just have the same boring light wash? They go into what makes their product different. Some of them have pearl snaps. Some of them have these crazy designs like you see on the shirt. Like,
is that it?
Yeah, this is
the
brand. That's actually where this whole entire thing came from, because
they got you with a
they got me with a skit. It was a crazy viral skit, and then it was a way to announce their new collection, because it was the fashion could be deceiving skit, and the whole premise of the video is this guy walks onto a subway and the girl looks at him and she won't stop looking at him, and it's an internal dialogue as like the script, and so the guy's like, he's like, oh, I knew she wants me. And then they like get off at the subway stop, and she pulls out her phone, and he starts saying his number. And then she goes, hey, where'd you get that shirt from? It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, because the whole thing just leads to something that we always talk about, which is a head fake. It is, you have this expectation, you're following along all of a sudden, and then boom, pattern interrupt. What you thought was going to happen is not going to happen. So it's like, you should really study their hooks and their text, because it's so good at framing what the video is about to be. It's so good at calling out something that only really their target audience, but their target audience is broad enough, right? This is a fashion brand, so everyone wears clothes. So if you even have any sense of style or aspire to have it, then it's something that would appeal to you. One of the best, there's the fashion MFs are getting too confident, which is like maybe a little broad. Maybe that sets the tone for a lot of potential things they could introduce. But the other one that is interesting is, quote, bet you can't make an Arabic collection actually look good.
Yeah.
Goes into a fire collection with a lot of Middle Eastern themes. Like, it's really cool how they're able to use the headline to frame what the rest of the video is. And at the end of the video is their products. It's all product drops. It's all collection announcements, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's cool how they're using like negative comments as like the pillar in their series to then drop a collection. Like you just said, the hook is, I'm sorry, Arabic streetwear just looks tacky, bro. And then they drop a sick campaign.
Yeah.
And they go to Jordan and they film the entire campaign, and it's sick.
Yeah, it's really dope.
One thing I think people would find interesting is, how are you finding some of these accounts? I'm guessing like you got hit with this, but like, how do you go in and find the dupes in I don't know how to pronounce this, but this brand?
I think if you ever get hit with a viral video from a consumer product, you should immediately go look at their account, because in today's day and age where short form is becoming so scientific, almost none of that happens by accident.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with both of these. Is I saw them on my IG. I don't watch. I mean, dude, I don't know about you, but I've struggled. I struggle to watch social media content without trying to learn from it.
No, that's all I do is basically dissect it.
Yeah. And my whole thing there is I'm trying to monetize my addiction. Like, if I'm going to spend so much time on social, I might as well turn it into some sort of, asset for me. But they popped up on my For You page or on my Instagram Reels, and I instantly like checked out the website, started looking into the brand. I was like, this is cool. It was novel. I'd never seen something like it before, but it also fit within this class of, I'm kind of over Aimé Leon Dore. I'm not really a Kith guy. I'm kind of looking for something
so looking for something new a little bit.
Dude, fashion is interesting because, and we were talking about represent earlier, but like fashion, once it reaches a certain level of scale, becomes no longer cool.
Yeah.
And it just takes one stray meme of connecting me to like some New York finance D-bag that also wears Aimé Leon Dore for me to be like, I don't know if I'm trying to rock this.
Like, I had one big purchase from Aimé, right? And then I have probably 3 to 4 different hats. And then lately I've been seeing so many people rocking the same hat. It happened all of a sudden, it felt like.
Yeah.
And now I haven't really been not fucking with them. Like, I just haven't been really checking out their content, checking out their new releases. Although you are wearing ALD shoes right now, right? Like, you are wearing the New Balance. I
would argue they're still my favorite brand.
They're still pieces.
And honestly, what you were about to say, in the least douchey way possible, there's always a level up. Like, I know a lot of MFs that are wearing the hat and the t-shirt, but they're not wearing that, $300 button up. Yeah. They're not wearing like the crazy jacket.
I think I had that moment too a little bit with Represent, because what I will say is, like, I found Represent 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
right? So before they really took off, like one of the shirts I wore recently is like a shirt from way back before they became like just a bigger, well-known brand in the streetwear
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing a lot of like, and this happens with any brand. It's not that they're targeting these people. It's like it just happens as you expand. Seeing a lot of lames like wear and represent, and it was like, like you made it uncool to me.
Yeah.
But then I had the moment again where like I just started following more of George's stuff again and
Yeah.
like watching his content. I'm like, you know what? I got to put that aside. Like I'm fucking with the brand because I like George
I
and
think
what
that
the whole, the whole thing, the whole, their whole mission embodies and all that. But yeah, it just happens. And I
that's
feel
a
like at some
sick
point,
example of a couple of things for founders to keep in mind, though. And obviously, most of the people that, well, depending on your stage, but what did George do that made Represent really spike
yeah,
was probably the personal blogging and, I mean, maybe the 247
the
mission
247 line
thesis,
popped
like
off.
that popped off and that
But then they
diversified.
also had like, it started just gaining more mainstream, like entering in more mainstream media with athletes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bigger name athletes wearing Represent and like musicians.
And he tailed the trend of athletes believing more in fashion.
Yeah.
Obviously, the tunnel walkouts became, something that was really central. But, as Ame kind of reaches this super large scale, I wonder who's bigger, by the way. I bet Represent's bigger by quite a bit.
Represent does, I mean, they've talked about this publicly, over 100 million.
Yeah. I don't think Ame does
No,
that
I don't
much,
think so either.
but that's because they just haven't tried to. Like
Yeah.
they actually, it's fascinating. They only run ads through whitelisting partners. So Ame doesn't run their own ads.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I like that.
They run ads through GQ and
Yeah.
they run ads through other media publications
I
talking
like
about
that.
their new drop. It's a cool strategy. But with them, what's the thing that so they actually just did this. They just dropped a cleat. I don't know if you saw that.
Ame?
Yeah. They
No, I
did
didn't see that
they
they
did a
dropped a cleat.
collab with New Balance where they dropped a cleat and it's unbelievably dope. It's really cool.
Oh,
And
this is sick.
I think what they will do, if I had to guess, so the guy loves basketball.
Yeah.
He's
Because they have that court, right?
Yeah, they have a court in Manhattan, and the guy loves basketball. But I also think he nails a retro, nostalgic country club aesthetic very well.
Yeah.
And I wonder, as they continue to search for new audiences and unlocking new personas, like will they venture into? Because they did a golf collection.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this like streetwear revival in golf right now.
Yeah.
You've been seeing that?
Yeah, because of Colin and Jordan.
Yeah, and that boy Adam, shout out Plunge Adam O'Grady.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we got to do part of an episode or an intro in my Plunge.
Huh?
We have to do like part of an episode in the Plunge.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Have you thought about making any short form series out of your Plunge?
Yeah, I wanted to do Cold Hard Truth, but like the marketing version. I just got to set it up at the house.
What do you mean? It's not set up?
No, like the camera setup.
Oh, the camera work.
Like when we did a collective, it's an easy setup. But it's an easy setup if you have the light set up there and you can like just have it made.
Yeah.
Because mine's outside, like we would always have to film during a certain part of the day. Like it gets complicated.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Whereas like at the collective, you just control the setting.
So going back to how our audience can use Derschutze as a playbook. So some of the things that they do that are present in every video, they use their target audience's vernacular. And there's only one way to do that. You have to be one with your audience. Like you have to have some sort of audience market fit where you're creating a product for them, but it's so important to speak their language. If you sound out of touch, then they're not going to resonate with you and they're not going to believe in your brand. The second thing is they always have recurring characters. So as you're building this audience, you want to continue to build familiarity. So when people see your content, they're just a little bit more likely to stick around. And then the quality of your content takes over. In all of their videos, they have basically the same 3 people. There's like a guy and a girl that are in most of their viral videos that are skits. And their dynamic is this fashion boy versus fashion girl dynamic that they're really able to play into. But they also have like a sillier character that's like this, smaller dude. And then, so keep some recurring characters in your series so that people have a sense of familiarity and know what to expect. The other thing is they have visuals that fit where their audience lives. All of their skits take place in urban, believable scenarios. So they have this man on the street feel to them, like someone just whipped out their iPhone and filmed something that was happening right there in front of them. They'll be getting off of the subway. They'll be walking around Soho in London. And the product is never explicitly highlighted in that visual, but they're always rocking it. Like they're always wearing something swaggy from the store.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's this way to get almost like free impressions. Like you're not really talking about the product, but because the hook is so good, because the visual is very native to what people in that area would expect or people of that audience would expect, you're kind of earning these eyeballs without saying, hey, look at me, I'm Derschutze clothing.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is they blend art with their hooks. So one of their biggest videos is a pickpocket POV. So they take a first person point of view, and it's someone walking up to a backpack, opening up a backpack without the other person looking. And this is all just on a street, right? Zero production value.
Yeah.
Like, so what does all this content strategy result in? This is a brand that runs no ads on Facebook, and yet they're consistently getting over 300,000 site visits per month.
Wow.
That is all just from their organic content strategy. And I promise you, if you're looking at, how much money would they have to spend to get 300,000 hits? I mean, you're talking on a good day, that's, somewhere in the range of like 200K a month.
Yeah.
Like, and
with great performing creative.
And
Yeah.
obviously they have a big following. So, a lot of that would be organic, but just talking about what is the raw value of all of that content, it's at least $100,000 a month in impressions. And instead of having to spend that on things that are maybe salesy, diluting the brand because it's a fashion brand, they're actually spending on stuff that is building their following in a way that people love and endear them. So really cool example of how to do that. It creates this feeling that you're one of us.
Yeah.
They feel like they're one of us. This is like one of your peers got it out and now made it big with a brand, and they are making content that relates to you. So I'm taking this playbook, and I got my highest profile client, their higher ups are saying that they want to maximize views and reach rather than necessarily revenue. And so basically a huge pivot for me in my business that I'm about to attempt is my team capable of becoming this point? Like this guy and girl that make this content in this skit format, is my team capable of producing that? And if we can do that as a service, if we can create that type of content for brands at scale, as a done for you solution, it can get really interesting.
What happens though is you're going to have a window of it being effective, right? The same
For
shit
sure.
with the law of shitty click through.
Yeah.
Where after a few months, everybody's going to see this, they're going to figure out how to do it, and then they're going to scale it across all their brands.
Yeah.
But again, that window, the good thing is you'll always be ahead of the trend.
For sure.
You'll when they're doing it, you're going to be on to the next thing for the next 6 months and so on.
Until I just get absolutely canned by AI.
There's a lot to learn here and a lot to take kind of from their series and whatnot. We're working with a brand that they're a legacy brand. They've been around since the 70s or 80s. They started in swimming, and they're absolute killers in the CrossFit space, but their content is just not there.
Yeah.
If you look at their content on their brand page, it is a lot of the repetitive things. They don't think through the lens of a modernized brand. They think of it through the lens of a legacy brand. And so they try to stay up with their image too much. And I think we're coming in to essentially fix that and change that. And one of the first things that we're going to be working on is this launch at the CrossFit Games, a new colorway.
I love that.
And I think there's a lot of things that we could rip from here to test different content series and see if there's something there before spinning it for the actual content strategy.
For sure. And I think if anything, this should serve as the playbook for everyone that has the feelings that you just described, which are, we care about brand perception. We care about not just selling our products. And this is a playbook for how to create relatable, shareable, engaging content that your audience will love. But you have to speak their language.
Yeah.
You have to speak to very common situations. Everything that Derschutze is portraying is something has been felt mutually by someone in the fashion world.
Yeah.
Oh, this person's looking at my fit. I bet or the ego of fashion bro thinking that this chick is checking him out, and then her just saying, "Where's your shirt?"
Yeah.
Or I thought it was also cool. They did one you won't make a Satanist collection for your next one.
Yeah.
And then they go into, it's just this collection called Awakening, which was very Christian themed and leaned into religion, being proud of religion. And they're making a stance there that like that's the founder just communicating his values.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see like how they package everything.
Yeah.
You talk about packaging on your content stuff from Clio and all these different people, and the way that they package that is, you know, they have that first little hook. Then, you know, the song that's attached to it is one of Kanye's gospel songs. And then it goes to the bro wearing the collection in a stained glass window church, in an old school church. And all of a sudden you create this very powerful emotional reaction when you combine all of those different components.
Yeah.
And people should really think about that. Like, don't bullshit. Like, you need to actually package stuff in a way that gives it a real chance and evokes feelings from your brand.
100%. And I like how they, like you said, they took a stance on what they do, what they believe in, et cetera, which is big for a brand.
Using that negative hook, like you talked about, though.
Yeah.
Bro, make a Satanist collection next. Nah.
Yeah.
Goes into, you know, what they produce. So dude, couldn't be a bigger fan of these guys. How
much was that shirt?
So it's not even that expensive. 50? I don't know if that's because the euro is just, you know, a fake currency, but
you and these hot takes.
No, it really wasn't that expensive. I think this was like 88 maybe.
Okay, that's not terrible.
It's kind of a lot, but like represents fucking 120 for a shirt, you know?
No. Oh yeah.
Some of them. Yeah. I mean, I was priced out. George Heaton doesn't put on for the little man.
You go through these waves, bro. 2 weeks ago, you looked dead at the camera and said, "I'm rich."
Damn, what did I say that? Okay, we're supposed to cut those moments, bro.
And then you come in here saying 120 is expensive for a shirt. That's
Look,
crazy.
Man, as I said to you earlier, strong takes, loosely held.
That's crazy.
That's my motto right now.
My goodness. So we spent the last 2 weeks talking about, you know, reverse engineering a content strategy, understanding the content funnel, the media funnel, etc. I now want to create like the playbook from taking a strategy from A to Z. I've been posting multiple clips from the last 2 episodes and getting a lot of questions, specifically like team members putting together a strategy, et cetera. I was like, okay, like we have this episode coming. So I want to start with part 1 or like the pillar that you need to start with. That is understanding the narrative that you're trying to create, right? Every brand has like this mission, you know, they have their mission and their values, but within that, there's like these like 5 words that establish the content that fuels this narrative. That is the narrative. You create the perception by creating more and more content, right? Like my bio says, content to make smarter marketing decisions. All my content feeds that narrative, right? That is why you should follow me, the perception I'm trying to create. And so my content just feeds it day in and day out. And so with you, it's like understanding what is the narrative that you're trying to put out to the world that the content feeds. So then you understand what content pillars and ideas and things that you should create to fuel that. Mm-hmm. The next thing I want to do is I already talked about Spark Turo and all that, so I won't go too heavy in here. Is I want to go into Spark Turo and I want to put in whatever a few of the competitors are that I have or people that are like similar to me. I want to put their website into Spark Turo because by putting their website, it takes the data of people visiting their site and it shows you the social accounts that they follow. It shows you like bigger accounts and then hidden gems. By doing that, I now want to dissect all of those accounts that I think have very good content, and I want to take what their pillars are and I want to spin it 3%. The 3% comes from Virgil Abloh's rule of you can make something novel by spinning it 3%, right? Mm-hmm. It is completely new the second you change it, right? And that could be a content series where you just change how you go about presenting the information. It could be the visuals. It could be so many different things, but you just want to spin it 3% to make it your own, right? And the idea here is before you ever develop a strategy, like a full-on content strategy, you first want to have a testing strategy. And that means, okay, over the next 30 days, over the next 60 days, what are the content ideas that I'm testing, the formats, the themes, all of these things? Because you don't want to develop a strategy for 90 days, 180 days, whatever it is, and it just falls flat on its face, mm-hmm. right? You want to be able to look at, do a 30-day sprint, look at the data and be like, okay, what worked, what didn't work? Yeah. That happened to me. If you look back at some of my content, I have some ideas of like rate this, or some series where it was like rate this ad. And what I did was I tested everything 3 times before I ditched it. If I tested something 3 times and it never got good engagement, I just ditched it, right? Mm-hmm. Like there was no point in trying to like save it just because I think it's a good idea. The market, which is the algorithm in this case, and the people the algorithm reaches, that is the data, right? Like that is going to tell me everything I need to know. And so if I'm not getting good engagement, if people aren't fucking with it, then I need to be like, okay, this is a bad idea. So the way I did it was I tested something 3 times, and then I always, every attempt, I tried to make it a little bit better. And that is even how I then developed like the Playbook series. So if you look at True Classic, there's 3 variations of the True Classic video. The first one I talk about the landing page. Then I was like, oh, that's too specific. That is really for like marketing nerds like you and I. And that's not going to speak to the founder who's like trying to break into marketing, but they're not there yet, right? Like they're not there yet to understand the specifics of a landing page, right? So, but what I did see was the metrics were good. It had a very high like to save ratio and save to share ratio. So it's like, okay, there's something here. So then I spun it the next time and I was like, hey, this is what got True Classic from 3,000 to 150 million in revenue in 3 years. And it kind of broke down a little bit more of the strategy, but it didn't like have the hook there until finally I landed on, this is True Classic's $150 million marketing playbook, right? Because playbook, you understand, marketing is broad enough term to understand it, where you can be in ops and want to consume the content. You can be in finance and want to consume the content, because like you're just business in general and want to consume the content. And so that third variation is why we even landed on, content pieces like represents $100 million marketing playbook. Bandits marketing.
It's fascinating looking at your early stuff.
Yeah,
I haven't looked at it in a long time, and so much of this, I feel like if you remade too with what you know now, you would go stupid.
Like which one? Give me an example, because I'll try it.
I think if you remade How to Never Run Out of Content Ideas, I think with a lot of the stuff that you've talked about recently. But yeah, it is interesting. You say, what do I rate these Nike ads? What do I rate these car ads?
And like in theory, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Because you either get people that agree or disagree.
Right.
And it might have been my delivery though.
It might have been your delivery. I also, the thing I'm curious, and what I love about kind of like you, Oren, and Landforce, and all your Cut 30 kind of like doctrine is, you're just not making good enough content.
Yeah.
Like
it might have just not been good enough at the time.
But that's the question, right? Is was it not good enough, or did you actually just, by grinding for 2 months basically straight, did you just put yourself in the algo to the point where you could catch? Because what a lot of people don't appreciate is, dude, these are social media algorithms are literally just machine learning data collectors. All they're doing is collecting data points on your content, classifying and tagging who you are, and then trying to show you to the right 100%. People. And so by you just brute force hammering content, it's like, was it bad? I don't know. I think Chewy's $10 billion marketing playbook is potentially just as interesting as Represent's $100 million marketing playbook. But to your point, you improve your delivery, you improve the retention rate, I'm sure.
Well, you could see how stale I was in some of these videos. And even that's like for somebody that, I love being in video, but it is still a skill to learn how to do short form, how to sit on a chair and like.
I think you got a lot quicker too, right? I feel like
I cleaned up. Yeah. I mean, like anything, like I cleaned up a lot of the content.
Are you ever going to go back to this super high end, like with your office type of content?
I think that's what the pod is.
Okay.
Is that variation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at the pod clips almost look like an entirely different series.
Damn, I didn't even see this last Crumb one went so dope.
The what?
The last Crumb thing went crazy.
It went crazy, yeah.
All right, let's get back to your segment.
Yeah. So in SparkTuro, again, I'm the whole goal is to go in there and find those winners, find those content pillars and ideas, and then just start testing different variations, because the whole goal is to have that testing strategy and then run these 30-day sprints where you're like, okay, I'm gonna get 20 pieces of content out over the next 30 days, and then I'm gonna look back at those 20 pieces of content, look at all the data and be like, what am I scaling, what am I ditching, and what am I gonna now implement into a content strategy. So when you're really starting starting out, right, and we're doing this for this company Peak 360 right now, we're running a growth sprint, and we have a bunch of different content ideas that we're giving him that they're going to be creating on the back end of. And then we're going to go back to the drawing board at the end of the 30 days and be like, all right, what are we ditching and what are we scaling? Right. And that's something I think is so important, that it's don't don't like live or die behind a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
We also made this mistake with Marketing Examine in Q1. We developed a Q1 strategy, and because of it, we got to the end of 90 days and looked back at the strategy like that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like some of it worked, but a lot of it didn't. And then a lot of it changed. And that whole time that we spent, the 2 weeks we spent on developing the strategy internally, every person on their own, within their own pillar, didn't work. Right. And we wasted a lot of time because of that. Versus in Q2, we did we did 3 different 30-day sprints. And we did the same thing with content.
Yeah.
I did multiple content sprints, and that's how I even found good content versus bad content.
It's interesting. That's how you get your time to insight to be reduced, right?
Yeah.
Is to shorten the testing window and have more output. Something that this guy on Twitter, Taylor Holiday, who's like the founder of big agency Commentary Collective,
Yeah.
He said that one of the biggest unlocks for him was realizing he was in a failure majority business, or something like that, where he's like, most of the things that I'm going to try are going to fail. And as a result, he's completely detached from the outcomes of the things that he's testing. And that is so hard for a lot of people to overcome, but it's so important because it allows you to actually deploy new ideas without being so attached to them.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the early content that you were testing, you thought was going to work, and there was a letdown when it didn't. That's every brand. And
there was a big letdown to the point where if you look at it closely, there's a big gap where I didn't post. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to crack the code.
Yeah.
And then you have something that cracks the code, and then you start getting,
it's unbelievable.
That's how it works, dude.
100%. And like, you just have to stay in the game for the longest time. I wanted to touch on some things when you talk about testing, like what are you testing? Right. And so for a lot of our brands, what we've really narrowed into what we're testing for them from a creative standpoint is this. Number one is the angle. What is the feature and benefit that you're positioning your product as? For Kane Footwear, this is anything from the best recovery shoe for athletes, or the best waterproof shoe. How do we go to the next level? And that is, are we testing best recovery shoe for runners? Are we testing it for CrossFitters? These are different audience personas that we want to then go after and see what alignment between those two testing variables is going to drive results. For waterproof shoes, you have people that are going to leisurely just go to the beach.
Yeah.
You have people that are active swimmers. You have people that are in the cold plunge. You got people that are fishing, people that are doing work outside that, want the easiest to clean thing. And that's where the waterproof element comes in. So there's all sorts of different unlocks that you can find when you're mixing and matching angles and audiences. The other stuff that we test is formats. So from that point, are we doing an iPhone first-person POV? Are we doing an iPhone third-person POV with the voiceover? This is where you can have the same angle, the same audience, the same setting, the same actor, all of these things, and then test first-person and third-person to expand how many assets you can create. So those are some of the things, if you're really like trying to, okay, I don't know how many assets I need, or I don't even know where to start with your assets. Start walking through what are the different angles that you want to sell your product, what are the different audiences you want to communicate those angles to, and what are the different settings and formats that you can then incorporate to make those combinations have more volume. And so that's one way to kind of do your ad strategy.
The other thing that I like that you can start doing is every month or try to understand like what are if your product solves multiple pain points, you can test how you communicate certain pain points through your content series to figure out what then gets scaled in paid ads.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I was going to touch on because there was a lot of people that responded to my video that I posted yesterday where I'm talking about like how to develop a team, but I'm talking about, probably like a 8-figure brand versus a 6 to 7-figure brand. And that is like one of the ways that if you are running paid ads and you're the one, like a one-man band, you have to be strategic on what are the things that you're testing organically that are going to work with paid. If you really need paid to like perform really well because you don't have much of a budget, then you're testing how you communicate certain pain points and the series that you're creating around those paid points that then you could scale across, scale on paid.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I did so we have this content cafe, which is more so for like content marketers. It's a paid community for content marketers and like founders and marketers that wear like kind of the content hat or play within that world. And so what we did was we did a live workshop with one of our members, Brian Diaz, and we took his brand called Pangler, which is a uh, they make like lures for
For fishing.
for fishing.
Dope.
He grew up in South Florida. And yeah, they create all the sorts of lures for if you're going bass fishing. It's essentially for the person that like fishes just with their backpack,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they're just going to the pond, they're going to the beach, they're not on a boat.
Right.
And
Super
so
super niche audience.
yeah, super niche audience. Well, in Florida, it's not a niche audience. Like when me growing up, me and my friend Quentin, we would after football practice, we'd get on our bikes and go like pond to pond or like golf course to golf course and just rip bass all day.
That's crazy.
It is, yeah, like some outer. Have you ever watched Outer Banks?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some like Outer Banks shit.
No, for sure. I didn't know you were like that level of a swamp person.
It's
Like
not swamp though.
uh, from the outside.
Yeah, from the outside.
That's some pretty swamp activity.
Me and yeah, there's some swamp stories because like me and Quentin,
I'm team swamp for sure. I just want to make that clear. I'm aligned with the swamp people. But that's very swamp of you.
there, Quentin and I, we had a John boat, which is like a 7-foot boat,
Vernacular.
like to the point where his mom had a like a large Infinity SUV. I don't remember what they're called, but like a large Infinity SUV, and like she would just open the back window and we just slide the boat
That's
through the
crazy.
window, and
Yeah.
like we would just sit like this in the car. But anyways, one of the days,
You think all the things you're saying are normal. These are extremely Floridian comments.
very Floridian.
Yeah.
And so we were, I don't remember if we were freshmen or sophomore in high school, but this is, so we go out fishing, bro. I have to tell a story. We go out fishing, and again, Quinn and I would fish on a weekly basis, but this was, we were going out to like the ocean in that little boat, tiny boat, literally had a 6 horsepower motor on it, like no power at all.
Yeah.
Anyways, I call my dad and I was like, yo, dad, like, can you bring us some sandwiches? And so he meets us at like this little part like underneath a bridge where there's like a little area where you could park a small boat. He brings us sandwiches, and like we're going back out into the ocean, and like where we're going through is actually an area where like we'd go shark fishing because it was always, there's a lot of marinas, and so they drop the scraps off, sharks come in, feed off of it. And so we're going back out of the marina into the ocean. And earlier we had gone fishing. I caught a redfish, first redfish, been dying to catch a redfish. And so I have it wrapped up in a bag. And anyways, my dad gets a Subways or Quiznos at the time. And we're like, all right.
No Publix?
It might have been Publix. It might have been a pub sub. I just remember it being a sub. I don't remember what,
Things
you know,
are so
what it
girthy.
was. They're crazy. Sus. But it's so, yes, they are. A pub sub with like the fried chicken tenders is 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Anyways, bro. So like we're going out of the area and going back into the ocean, and all of a sudden the boat starts going like full speed, and I'm in the front, Quentin's in the back because it was his boat, and I'm like, Quentin, stop playing, bro, like my dad's watching, he's gonna freak out. Bro, when I look back like this, I just see Quentin in the air, and I was like, oh no. And I see the boat start turning, bro, and like going like this and start flipping, and all of a sudden I like, in the moment, the only thing I tried to save was my phone, bro. But I'm in the middle of the ocean, but I seen there was mangroves. And so I just get my phone and I tried chucking it to the mangroves. So I'm like, yo, I'm gonna try to get this.
Yeah.
Anyways, the boat flips.
That's why you're a running back, not a quarterback, though.
No, anytime there's halfback pass, I threw it. Anyways, bro, we flipped the boat. He gets cut open on his arm. And we're just like sitting there. My dad's like half a mile, but he sees us and he can't do nothing.
Yeah.
Because by like one, you can't swim half a mile. He's Cuban. He can't swim half a mile.
I thought how far is Cuba?
It's like 90 something miles. He came on a boat. He came on a little boat.
No, yeah, I got no comment.
He came on a little boat. He came on a little John boat like us.
Yeah,
Anyways, and like, dude, eventually we're just like sitting on the boat, and we eventually get rescued by some other person. And it was a whole thing. The craziest thing was I remember having somehow Quentin's wallet in my hand, and boy, when they threw me a rope to get rescued, I dropped his wallet so quick. The one thing we
it's Quentin's fault though, right? So I mean, it sounds like
Quentin's
you
fault.
deserve to at least take some sort of help.
It was Quentin's fault. The one thing that we somehow kept, bro, was the redfish. I don't know how.
Damn.
But I had a redfish for dinner that night.
Wow. That was like on many levels a great story. That what you just did there is the classic how a stand-up comedian will mention something very specific at the beginning of a story that you think is seemingly not that important.
Yeah.
But at the end, your punchline was that you had that fucking redfish.
I had the redfish.
Yeah. No.
I could have worked on the delivery. you know?
I thought it was good. I laughed like 3 times authentically.
Yeah,
It's
but
real.
if I need to be standing up so I could be more animated and like the more when I was freaking out with Quentin, like when
For
I'm like
sure.
Quentin,
Yeah,
like that whole
yeah, yeah.
thing.
You could have had some more emotion maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the content cafe and we did a live workshop where we reverse engineered his competitors' content strategies. Then we kind of made one live on the call for him and that he's going to start testing. Right. One of the things we did though was he was showing me all these brand accounts, and all the brand accounts were like they didn't really have many content series. They would have pieces of content that go viral. And I was like, Brian, look, this is what we need to do. We actually need to look at the top fishing creators.
Mm.
Let's find them on YouTube and then let's look at their series and let's create their series, but for short form. So we landed on, again, and this is a one-man band. This is why I'm even bringing this up is you're trying to figure out how to create a content strategy for a one-person team and you're the team. Go look at other creators and then find what is like the minimal viable version of that YouTube video that you can do. And so what we came
And
up with,
twist that bitch 3%.
4%. Yeah,
Indeed.
3%. And so what we came up with was a $1 lure versus a $100 lure. $2 lures, right? Versus $200 lures. A $20 lure versus $200 lure.
Love it.
Where he is the $5 lure or the $10 lure. And now he gets to position his lure against this $100 lure that's not catching something.
Yeah.
When his that costs $10 and catches it, right? There was another one of, hey, I'm going to have this random bucket full of lures. I'm going to test different ones until I catch a fish. Another one was like, I'm going to set a time. I'm going to try to catch this fish in 30 minutes, right? Because if you go to certain parts in Florida, like you know what fish you can catch there. So like if I go near the mangroves, I know I'm catching either snook or snapper.
Mm.
And so like just know, and if you're a good fisherman like me and Brian are, we just go to the different different parts that we know, and like we're increasing our chances of catching that fish.
Mm-hmm.
So like setting a timer. But the whole goal and the whole thing there is there's a lot to learn from creators in the space, similar to what you said with the German brand. They're not creating like a brand, they're creating like creators or like a creator brand through the brand account.
Yeah.
Right. And Brian should be doing the same thing. Then based on that is developing a content funnel based on his goals. Right now, his goal is purely gaining awareness, purely gaining followers and reach, because he's a brand new account. He has 80 something followers, probably has 33% engagement rate, like Cade, very high, but it's all
big
friends.
swinging. I mean, this dude coming in
it's
just with
it's
the
all
fucking.
it's all friends, right? Like we were talking about there. It's like it because right now all he's posting is like the specific lures.
Yeah,
And I'm like, this isn't what you need to be posting because it's only ever going to reach the people that are following you.
for sure.
You need to be creating these different content series that integrate the lure. But right now your goal is reach. So figure out what are the things that could go most viral that you can integrate the lure in. And so for a brand, it's what is our content funnel that we're going to be doing for the next 30 days? Because our goal is this. And if you're a more developed brand and you do it by quarter, that's fine. But you have to understand what that content funnel looks like.
Yeah.
Am I creating 80% top of funnel content, 10, 15% middle of funnel, and 5% bottom of funnel, right? For someone like Brian, it's probably 90-10 and there's no bottom of funnel content. It's
Yeah.
all awareness, reach, trying to get as many eyeballs as possible, and then some product education, right? Because I also looked at another creator's account and multiple creators. A lot of their top performing content's educational content. How to throw, like how to do a specific cast.
Yeah.
What to use in this body of water. All of these things, right? And so the thing I told him was look at the comments, because the comments is like people don't understand. The comments is like where so many content ideas come from.
Unbelievable.
So he made an educational video. I was like, Brian, let's look at the comments. There was 1,000+ comments, and I mean, from what we looked at, it was like nearly 75% of them are questions. And it's like, yo, these are people giving you content ideas. Just take these content ideas and make your own version of the video.
Yeah.
Anyways,
The one thing I just want to squeeze in before he should study that plant guy, the the plant daddy.
Yeah.
Kevin Esposito or whatever. Is that his name? Epic gardening.
Yeah.
He should really study epic gardening, because this guy, to your point about educational content being top performing, this guy is so good at creating hooks around relatable scenarios like you're discussing right now. If there's a question about fishing that someone has, he answers the question with his hook in the video, and he's just so incredible at answering a very simple question with very simple language, with made for short form, made for social visuals, and it's led to obviously substantial amount of sales in his business. So because that's really what Brian is trying to do, is how do I create content that positions myself as an authority, and then once people are interested and I've shown them the answer, it's a one-stop shop.
100%.
You just go straight to my website and you can start plugging in a very non-salesy way.
Yeah.
Just go to the website to get this. If you need
It's
it.
always much easier to do bottom of the funnel content when you become a source.
Yeah.
When you become the resource of information or entertainment or inspiration, it's a lot easier to sell, right? That's why it's a lot easier for me right now to push Content Cafe or Playbooks or Cut 30 or whatever it is, because all I've been doing is giving free game. All I've been doing is becoming a resource when you have to figure out a product launch or how to do something on the content side. You know, you could go to my account and consume all this content to the point where now you feel like, okay, if he's launching something that's specific to me, let me become a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that is all I'm trying to get Brian to do. And so the next part is I want Brian or anybody to have three different series that they're regularly putting out, because you're only going to get better at making them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Versus always having to have a new idea. That the $1 lure versus $100 lure. You can repeat that week over week, and you're always going to have a different outcome, because fishing's fishing. You can't predict fishing, right? Or the random lures where you cast a different lure call up every 5 minutes. You want to have these different series and different formats so you always have that, you could always scaling and making better. Does that mean you never change it and you never find new ones? No, because at the same time, you're always going to test something new.
Mm-hmm.
So every week, every 2 weeks, you're testing a new idea, a new format. Again, testing it 3 times before you either scale it or minimize it. And the whole goal is, of course, something's some content series at some point are going to not perform as well anymore, right? Like that's the nature of the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we always have to change different. It's the same thing with ads. That's why you always have to change certain things.
Yeah.
And so you always want to be testing something new. Like I already have a very new content series I'm going to be testing, because the last few good content versus bad content haven't hit as much. Is my audience getting tired of them? Do I need to find a new way to package it?
How do you look at that though? Because do you look at my audience being tired of it, or aren't you still in the acquire net new followers stage, right? Or are you trying to create content for your audience?
No, those are to get new.
Right.
Like it's getting a new audience for sure.
See, I think what you just described is actually a really tough question for a lot of people to answer, in that I had success with this format before. Call it the last 6, not just the last 3, but the last 6 have not done well. Do you retire that concept and move on to another one?
No, I almost think I have to make it novel again. I increased the volume so much that I don't think it's novel anymore. I think I have to find new content series to plug in. And then when I do good content versus bad content again,
it's like a banger a month and a half from now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more novel.
Because
for example, but then again, it's like good content versus bad content, where I do Poor Boy versus Summer Moon Coffee has 154,000 views and has gotten me thousands of followers. So and that was June 17th. But then I went on a spree of good content versus bad content, where I did wearables, athlete marketing, sunglasses, and I think one other one, right? And that was all within like a 6-7 day window. So I think there's at some point you have to make things novel again before essentially the law of shitty click-throughs happens to.
What is the law of shitty click-through?
The law of shitty click-through is basically saying that you'll have an ad that performs really well, and there will be a moment where it's ripping until marketers see it and they rip it too.
Interesting.
I think it was like one of the Andrew Chen, maybe the guy from A16.
Yeah, it's funny. The number one thing that comes to mind with that is the Adams shoes thing, where they said it is expensive. It's because we use quality ingredients, because
everybody does.
And then all of a sudden, every higher AOV product was like, it is expensive.
Everybody does that. And that's the law of shitty click-throughs, is that same idea of like, it is novel until everybody starts doing it. It's the same thing with that by Maximize.
Yeah.
You know him?
Yeah.
Right? Like he created this new idea or this new way of telling a story, and it was novel until everybody started doing it. And now he has to find his new way of creating it. But the good thing is he's always going to be ahead because he's the trendsetter,
Yeah.
right? There's already people ripping good content versus bad content. There's people ripping brands doing content right, brands doing marketing right.
Yeah.
And so when you have 10, 20 people creating that same thing, and that same thing is what helped you grow, and that we're all like targeting the same person kind of too.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say though, if you do have a series that you're driving like a significant amount of results for, as a brand, you should scale that into its own theme page. And the idea there is you don't want it to ruin the main account. Like there's the Emmy on the streets and then, you know, Emmy ramen or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find something that like it helps you generate a ton of awareness and it just hits after hit after hit, create that as its own page.
For sure.
Because you don't like, if you do want to be posting it 3 times a day, you don't want to do that on the brand page. Right. And you could invite your brand page as a collab and then only accept it when it starts going viral. So it shows up on the main page.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the last thing. Cause you know, I've thought about that with having like a content page, right? Like where I only talk content marketing, because then I could funnel it to Content Cafe. Then I could funnel it to Cut 30. You want to give people something more specific that they want to consume. And so like being able to do that with a theme page. If I want to go dive deeper into just content marketing or into landing pages or CRO, you could do that with the theme page.
That's interesting.
And scale it just because the idea is, hey, you're following this account just for this reason. Another thing that made me think about it was, did you see my video where I talked about ASICS and how they're doing this series with this runner called Clayton Young?
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that I talked about was I think it's very smart that they created it through Clayton Young's YouTube channel versus ASICS. And people be like, oh yeah, people love the creator, not the brand. And it's like, no. People the people that want to follow that don't want to follow everything else that ASICS puts out on their channel. Yeah. Right? They just want to follow Clayton's journey to Paris and the Olympics and training for the Olympics. So all of a sudden, if you put it on the brand account, you're going to dilute the engagement and how many people follow it, because it's like, damn, I'm going to get hit now with everything ASICS puts out. Yeah. Versus if it's on Clayton Young's page and I'm a fan of Clayton Young, I know what to expect. And so therefore, any time a video drops and anytime I get a notification for a new video, I know it's just another series or it's another episode, or at least I know it's something relative to Clayton. Mm-hmm. The same thing is with the theme page. You know, like if somebody doesn't want to follow the brand account because they're not there yet, but they want that series, you create the theme page so you can just hammer the series and then build the bridge to the brand account. Yeah, but
love it.
Ran over.
Yeah, that's I think that's super valuable for anyone.
Yeah,
they should definitely listen to that. Well, cool. That's all I got for today.
That's all I got. Another good episode. If you
go.
Nice. If you haven't already, hit like, hit subscribe. We appreciate it. If you leave a review, I'd been saying this for a minute. I've been trying to find the right hat. There's a certain look I've been looking for the hats. It's different than the last batch.
Oh.
So they still look good, still two-tone, but because I've been on this fashion wave, I've been trying to find better hats.
Yeah.
There's actually a hat that this is what changed my whole framing for it. Have you seen Creative Department on Twitter?
Yeah.
The blue hat?
Yeah.
You've seen how they've popped off? Mm-hmm. It made me realize like we just need better hats.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I went and searched and I found them. It's like $10 per hat now. It's worth it. And then I got the boy gonna be embroidering them. So
sweet.
Should be sick. But anyways, like and subscribe. We're gonna be giving out hats. We still owe people hats. You got to spin up the Shopify so we could get these up and ready.
I knew it was coming back to me somehow.
I have the text receipts where you said, bro, I could spin up a Shopify in a day.
At least 2 months ago, I said that. I'm 100% admitting that I've been fucking off.
100%.
So I need to get that done.
100%. All right, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, peace.